Are you feeling totally drained by work? Well, it's definitely not just you. It feels like a modern epidemic, right? But what if the solution isn't just another vacation? What if it's an ancient way of thinking that could completely transform how we approach our jobs? Let's dive in.
So let's start with a number that should really make you stop and think. 63%. According to Mental Health First Aid England, that's how many UK employees are showing signs of burnout. I mean, that is almost 2/3 of the entire workforce. This isn't just about feeling a little tired. This is a massive systemic problem. You know, the typical advice we always hear is, oh, just take more breaks. But what if that's just putting a Band-Aid on a much deeper issue? In this explainer, we're going to explore a totally different path, one that helps us move from constant, grinding exhaustion to a state of almost effortless engagement. So what are the real-world consequences of burnout? I mean, what does it actually do to us? Well, one of the biggest and most dangerous effects is something called decision fatigue. Think about it. Every single decision you make all day, whether it's big or small, it saps a little bit of your mental energy. And when that energy tank gets low, your brain starts to look for the easiest way out. And often, that default option is just do nothing. In a high-stakes job, that can have some really serious consequences. And this is where it gets really stark. Take a look at this. A study of orthopedic surgeons found that the very first patient of the day had about a 40% chance of being scheduled for surgery. But by the time the surgeons saw their 9th patient, that chance plummeted to just 7%. Now, the patient's medical needs didn't change throughout the day, but the surgeon's mental energy sure did. And the researchers were crystal clear about this. That massive 33 percentage point drop is a direct result of mental depletion. For a tired, fried brain, the easiest, safest decision is to just wait. This isn't some small dip in performance. We're talking about a huge factor in what could be life-changing decisions. Okay, so if the problem is depletion, then the solution has to be recovery, right? Well, yes, but it's not as simple as just, zoning out in front of the TV. We need to talk about active recovery, intentionally and deliberately replenishing our mental and physical batteries. And recovery, it turns out, is a two-way street. Of course, we as individuals need to get better at managing our own energy. But organizations have a huge responsibility to create cultures that don't just burn people out and toss them aside in the first place. So for you personally, there is a fantastic tool called the drama model. It's kind of like a multivitamin for your well-being. And you should think of it less as a rigid checklist and more as a way to diagnose what's wrong. Are you really detaching from work? Do you have real autonomy over your own time? The goal isn't to get a perfect score on all 6, but to see where you're running on empty and then consciously top up. Then, on the organizational side, it's all about building a genuine culture of recovery. Yeah, sure, leaders can stop sending those late-night emails, and that helps. But the real change is systemic. It means properly managing workloads, so they're challenging, sure, but not crushing. It means providing actual spaces and time for people to disconnect. It's about designing a workplace that doesn't treat its people like disposable batteries. But hold on. What if we're asking the wrong question entirely? Instead of just figuring out how to recover from a broken system, what if we could design a better one to begin with? For that, we could actually look at other high-stakes fields for some major clues. Just look at the difference between aviation and surgery. In aviation, the pilot's own life is on the line, so there's this intense focus on safety systems. You've got mandated breaks, strict checklists, and a whole culture built around minimizing fatigue. Surgery, on the other hand, can often be more hierarchical with far fewer built-in protections against burnout. The lesson here is pretty obvious, right? The system you work in matters a lot. So we've talked about what we can do as individuals, and we've talked about building better systems. But what if there's a third way, a deeper way to work that actually preserves your energy as you go? For that, we need to turn to some ancient philosophy. This brings us to the fascinating story of Ding from the ancient Taoist text, the Zhuangzi. He was this master butcher who, after 19 years of work, had a knife that was still as sharp as the day it was made. So what was his secret? He didn't force his way through. He moved with the natural flow of the task, always finding the empty space. Ding's journey is just a masterclass in perception. You see, when he first started, all he saw was the ox, this big, solid problem he had to hack his way through. But after a few years, he started to see the gaps, the natural lines in the structure. He wasn't working harder, he was seeing smarter.
And now he says he doesn't even use his eyes. He moves by spirit, by intuition. Now, this state he achieved has a name, Wu Wei. It's often translated as effortless action. And this is really important. It's not about doing nothing. It's about moving with the natural flow of a situation so that your actions are both incredibly powerful and incredibly efficient without draining you. And here's the key insight. Kukting's secret wasn't more brute force. It was a completely different way of seeing. He worked with the structure, not against it. He didn't see bones as obstacles to smash through. He saw the spaces between them as his pathway. And this is the core principle, using no thickness to enter where there is space. So what on earth is no thickness? You can think of it as flexibility, or having an open mind, or a lack of ego getting in the way. It's the quality that allows you to find the space in your own complex work. That space might be the unspoken need in a tense client meeting, or the one elegant line of code that solves a huge bug. It's about perception, not force. Okay, so let's bring these two worlds together. The burnt-out modern professional and the ancient Taoist master. What does this profound ancient wisdom actually teach us about our very modern struggle? Well, here's the final contrast, laid out plain and simple. You've got the fatigued surgeon hacking away at bone, facing resistance at every turn and just depleting their energy. And then you have the effortless cook, gliding through the gaps, following the grain, and actually preserving his energy. One sees a solid wall, the other sees a doorway. So here's the thought I want to leave you with. What if we've been focusing on the wrong thing all this time? We're so obsessed with resilience and recovery from a draining system. But what if we could learn to work in a way that doesn't deplete us? Maybe even one that energizes us. Instead of just sharpening our knife over and over again after it gets dull, what if we could learn how to never dull it in the first place? What if we could all be a little more like Kukting?